In Venezuela, candidates begin to register for the municipal elections to be held on July 27, 2025. U.S. authorities detained more than 150 people during protests against President Donald Trump's migration policies. And a humanitarian convoy named Maghreb's Resolve departed from Tunis with thousands of volunteers to demand an end to the genocide and for humanitarian aid to be allowed into the entire Gaza Strip. Hello, welcome from the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from the teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. Stay with us. In Venezuela, candidates begin to register for the municipal elections to be held on July 27, 2025. The National Electoral Council published Sunday the electoral timetable. Candidates will be able to submit their applications starting this Monday, June 9th. Electoral authorities emphasize that the processes include the option of self-nomination and the formation of voter groups. In this regard, the electoral bodies say that interested parties should go to the National Office of Political Participation, located at the headquarters in Caracas Square, or to the regional electoral offices. And the Colombian government ordered increased security for the country's political leaders following the assassination attempt on presidential pre-candidate Miguel Uribe. President Gustavo Petro held a meeting with the country's police officials to discuss new measures to guarantee the safety of the opposition. On Monday, high-level meetings are expected to continue to define security strategies for all political actors in the country, amid investigations to identify the perpetrators of the attack against Miguel Uribe. The Colombian president will also hold a meeting with the Electoral Guarantees Commission, members of the government, and various political parties in a call to establish a peace plan. And in Colombia, the Attorney General's office will charge a 14-year-old teenager with attempted murder and illegal possession of firearms after shooting presidential pre-candidate Miguel Uribe. The arrest was legalized by a judge and the case is moving forward under the juvenile criminal responsibility system. Although he cannot be sent to a regular prison, he could face up to 8 years of imprisonment in a specialized care center. At the same time, the investigation continues with raids on family members' homes and review of videos of the political rally where the attack occurred. Authorities are seeking to establish the involvement of others as well as the motives behind the incident. On Monday, Brazil's Supreme Federal Court begins questioning key figures in an attempted coup, including former President Jair Bolsonaro and 7 other members of his government. The hearings are to be held in person at the court's headquarters in Brasilia, except for that of General Walter Braga Neto, whom will appear via video conference owing to his pre-trial detention. The first to be questioned will be Mauro Cid, a key figure in the investigation after providing documents and testimony that directly implicate former President Bolsonaro. Defendants have the constitutional right to testify or remain silent. Once the proceedings conclude, the judge will prepare a detailed report on the case and issue a ruling.
Sempre joguei dentro das 4 linhas da Constituição. Nós falamos sobre.
In Lima, the Peruvian police caught former President Pedro Pablo Kuczynski at the Jorge Chávez International Airport while he was trying to flee to the United States. In this context, the former head of state is being investigated for alleged money laundering in the Odebrecht case. The attempted getaway occurred a few hours earlier. A key judicial hearing started where they would assess the prosecutor's request to impose him a new impediment to leave the country. The public prosecutor's office argued that he might run away due to the previous judicial restrictions expiration. Meanwhile, Kuczynski's lawyer justified that the trip was for personal and health reasons, specifically to visit his wife, whom he had not seen for 7 years, and to undergo medical examinations.
Además de Kuczynski, otros 3 expresidentes peruanos están procesados por el caso.
The Russian Defense Ministry reported that its air defense system shot down 49 Ukrainian drones in the last 24 hours over several regions of the country. The action included areas far from the front lines, such as Nizhny Novgorod and the Republic of Chuvashia. In the latter, 2 drones struck an industrial plant without causing any casualties, but forced operations to be suspended. Due to the incident, several airports temporarily suspended flights for safety reasons. In this regard, Russian authorities report a sustained increase in Ukrainian drone attacks against energy, industrial, and military infrastructure in border areas and in the interior of the country. And on Monday, the first group of Russian servicemen aged under 28 were freed in accordance with the agreements reached in Istanbul between the nation and Ukraine. The Russian Defense Ministry informed of the operation, stating the servicemen were released from an area controlled by the Kiev regime and are currently in Belarus, where they are being given the necessary psychological and medical assistance prior to their return to Russia. In addition, the authority unveiled it had transferred a similar number of Ukrainian prisoners of war. Moscow and Kiev agreed on a large exchange of prisoners during the second round of negotiations held in Istanbul, Turkey on June 2nd. We now have our first break coming up. Remember, you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates, and much more. I'm going to be right back. Stay with us.
El mundo se mueve constantemente.
Welcome back. U.S. authorities detained more than 150 people during protests against President Donald Trump's migration policies. On the third consecutive day of protests in downtown Los Angeles, demonstrators confronted Trump's order to deploy 2,000 National Guard soldiers. Protesters reject the ban on foreigners from 12 countries and demand the release of service employees, International Union California leader David Huerta. In this context, U.S. President Donald Trump asserted that protests only strengthened his determination to continue deporting illegal migrants. And in the United States as well, approximately 60 people, including juveniles, have been arrested following unrest in San Francisco on Sunday, as thousands demonstrated in support of anti-ICE protests taking place in Los Angeles. A series of federal immigration raids have sparked mobilizations in major California cities, prompting President Donald Trump to violate federal laws and militarize the state of California without the governor's authorization. In this regard, Governor Gavin Newsom warned that pressure would only exacerbate tensions, and now he denounces an intentional plan by the White House to infiltrate violent individuals and create chaos. In this context, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum has instructed to provide full support to Mexican citizens arrested in the deportation raids ordered by President Trump.
Mexicanas y los mexicanos que viven en Estados Unidos son hombres y mujeres de bien, son hombres honestos.
Mexicans living in the United States are good men and women. They are honest people who went to the United States to seek a better life for themselves and to support their families. They are not criminals. They're good, honest men and women. They have the full support of their government. 2 days ago, I instructed the Secretary of Foreign Affairs and the consular network to stay in contact and provide all the support that is required.
Todo el apoyo que se requiere.
Mexican authorities declared high alert on the southwest of the Mexican Pacific as a result of the Operation 3E turned Sunday into Tropical Storm Cosme. The National Meteorological System informed that Cosme is located around 935 kilometers southwest of Perula Beach in Jalisco and 75 kilometers south of San Lucas Cape, Baja California. Experts forecasted that the precipitation associated with the phenomenon would generate landslides, heavy rainfalls, growing river flows, and flooding in low-lying areas. Therefore, authorities urge the population to be alert to possible changes triggered by the storm and to follow the indications of civil protection. And the Permanent Contingency Commission of Honduras reported Sunday the arrival of a tropical wave to the country, which will significantly affect weather conditions in the Central American region. COPECO forecasted that heavy rains, gusts, cloudiness, and scattered thunderstorms were likely to occur in the upcoming hours. The most hit areas will be the southwest, south, east, center, and north of the country. In view of this scenario, authorities call on the population to follow official recommendations, avoid crossing rivers or flooded streams, have a family emergency plan, and maintain constant communication with the competent authorities in case of any incidents. And the Ocean Summit started in Nice, southeastern France, a historic meeting that seeks the promulgation of the High Seas Treaty approved in 2023. Numerous world leaders have confirmed their attendance this Monday as 115 countries are meeting to discuss such pressing issues as global warming, pollution, and destruction of biodiversity, as well as the opportunities for recovery. Several countries are expected to announce, among other vital issues, the creation of a new marine conservation zones within their national waters. However, the focus of the day is the enactment of the High Seas Treaty, a legally binding instrument for the conservation and sustainable use of marine biological diversity of areas beyond national jurisdiction.
Portanto, no multilateralismo, fomos capazes de dirimir.
By embracing multilateralism, we were able to resolve differences that once seemed insurmountable. Now we are seeing hanging over the ocean the threat of unilateralism. We cannot allow what happened to international trade, where rules were eroded to the point of rendering the WTO inoperative, to happen to the sea. Preventing the oceans from becoming a stage for geopolitical disputes is an urgent task in building peace. Channels, gulfs, and straits should bring us closer together, not be a cause for discord.
Devem nos aproximar e não ser motivo de discórdia.
We have our second and final break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage, and much more. Follow our page and activate the official button to stay up to date on rules, news, and events. A final break, I'm going to be right back. Welcome back. Israeli troops killed at least 12 people and wounded others in shootings near two aid distribution points in Rafah, southern Gaza Strip. A statement issued by the Gaza's health authorities on Sunday also reported that at least 41 Palestinians had been killed in the Israeli military operation since early morning of that day. Munir al-Burj, director of the health authorities in Gaza, said on Sunday that the healthcare system is on the brink of collapse, overwhelmed by Israel's continued military strikes and blockade. Since the escalation of the Israeli aggression as of October 7, 2023, approximately 54,088 Palestinians have been killed by Israel. And a humanitarian convoy named Maghreb's Resolve departed from Tunis with thousands of volunteers to demand an end to the genocide and for humanitarian aid to be allowed into the entire Gaza Strip. This Monday, the caravan set off for the Palestinian enclave to try to break the blockade. It will cross Libya and Egypt on their way to the Rafah border crossing to deliver humanitarian aid. Over 7,000 volunteers from Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Mauritania, and Egypt take part in the humanitarian action. The initiative also supports the Freedom Flotilla seized by Zionist forces. The international committee to break the siege of the Gaza Strip called for more help, and about 30 countries in Europe, South America, and Southeast Asia will answer the call. And the Israeli occupation Navy boarded the ship Matlin and kidnapped its crew and activists carrying humanitarian aid to Gaza. The boat, launched by the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, was sailing through the Mediterranean Sea with humanitarian aid for the Gaza Strip when it was intercepted some 185 kilometers from the Palestinian enclave by Israeli speedboats. The Zionist regime's navy raided the ship, ordering the crew to throw their mobile phones into the sea and abducting all on board. According to the Tel Aviv's foreign ministry, the crew is being taken to the Israeli port of Ashdod, where they are expected to be deported to their respective countries. And the crew members of the Freedom Fleet ship Madeline are still kidnapped by this regime after the occupation forces besieged and assaulted them. Following the terrorist incursion, previously recorded crew members' videos were released requesting the immediate involvement of their governments and parliaments.
My name is Greta Thunberg and I am from Sweden. If you see this video, we have been intercepted and kidnapped in international waters by the Israeli occupational forces or forces that support Israel. I urge all my friends, family and comrades to put pressure on the Swedish government to release me and the others as soon as possible.
And the Palestinian resistance movement, Hamas, condemned the hijacking of the humanitarian flotilla bound for Gaza and held Israel responsible for the safety of the activists on board. In statements, the Palestinian group urged the UN and international organizations not only to condemn the kidnapping but also to take action against Israel for its continued rights violations in Palestine. Hamas reaffirmed its support for these activists who have remained firm in their solidarity with the Palestinian cause, despite threats from the occupation. Hamas emphasized that these actions confirm that Gaza is not alone. And the UN Special Rapporteur for the Occupied Territory, Francesca Albanese, urged the UK government to seek guarantees for the Israeli authorities for the crew of the Freedom Flotilla. The Madeline ship sailed under the British flag, which is why the rapporteur is asking Keir Starmer's government to guarantee the release of the 12 crew members. She also calls for the flotilla to complete its mission, as Israel has no authority over Gaza. The crew members of the flotilla remain kidnapped by the Israeli government, and its defense minister, Israel Katz, said on Monday that they will all have to watch a video from October 7, 2023. In other news, on Sunday in Saudi Arabia, tens of thousands of Muslim pilgrims gathered in reverence to perform the farewell circumambulation circling the Kaaba in Mecca as the Hajj came to an end. This year's pilgrimage, attended by more than 1.8 million people, was under tight logistical planning and safety precautions designed to manage the intense heat and large crowds. Kaaba, a black cube-shaped structure, is the focal point toward which Muslims face during their daily prayers from anywhere in the world. The Hajj, one of the 5 pillars of Islam, is required at least once in a lifetime for all Muslims who are physically and financially able. And Islamic countries are celebrating over the weekend the Feast of the Lamb, one of the most important in their culture. However, Moroccan authorities banned the consumption of lamb on that date due to a shortage of livestock. A correspondent in National Lemus with more.
It doesn't look like Eid al-Adha in Morocco. It is one of the most important festivities of the Islamic calendar, in which the sacrifice of a lamb is celebrated. A date in which the population usually fills the streets of the capital. However, this year they are empty because the protagonist will be missing the lamb. It is expensive, very expensive, and if there is no lamb, we have to make a breakfast here in front of the beach. Let's finish and go back to the house. The tradition of visiting the mosque in the morning remains, but the ritual of sacrificing a lamb purchased in the days leading up to the celebration is no longer observed. Families used to celebrate inside their homes or cook the animal at the door. Each cut had a specific time during the 2-day event. It all ended last year when lamb prices jumped to at least $600 per head. For that reason, in 2025, King Mohammed VI suspended the celebration with lamb. We have to celebrate, we go to the mosque, we see people, we greet the family, but without lamb, because this year lamb is very expensive. It's very expensive. We can't buy it because we don't have water, we don't have anything, but hopefully next year we'll be able to celebrate with lamb.
7 consecutivos de sequía en Marruecos tuvieron
7 consecutive years of drought in Morocco had an impact on food prices, and lamb, with its dependence on pastures and water, was no exception. An ancestral tradition interrupted by an environmental scenario that, despite hopes, is likely to get worse.
Nós tivemos 2023, 24 e agora em 25.
In 2023, 2024, and 2025, we experienced the highest temperatures since the dawn of human civilization 11,000 years ago at the start of the Holocene epoch. We are in an era called the Anthropocene. We have completely changed the climate of the planet, and in recent months the temperature has broken all records. It has risen by 1.5%, which is why all extreme weather events are breaking records.
Passou de 1,5 graus, todos os fenômenos extremos estão batendo recordes.
Desde 2018, Marruecos no registra
Since 2018, Morocco has not recorded significant rainfall to prevent the progressive degradation of its ecosystems. In addition to the impacts on agriculture, the country is struggling to recover its urban forests affected by climate change.
Ignacio Lemus y Julia Nassif para Telesur.
Like this, we have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. Join us on social media, Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. Telesur English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.